Welcome to the Triple Takeover Toycast, a fortnightly podcast all about Transformers and occasionally other toy brands as well. This is episode 81. My name is Sixo, but more on that later because I'm joined as ever by my wonderful co-hosts. We got Liam from Toybox Soapbox.
What ho? Oh, sorry. AEW what ho.
Very nice. Excellent. See what
That's
you're going
wrestling
for there.
So you won't understand.
I
got over my head.
I got it. I can live with the reference. Yeah, that's cool. And Jason from J-Swags. How you doing?
Very good. Hello, gents. Good to see you all.
Now, if I'm speeding through that intro, it's because we actually have a fourth person to introduce tonight, and it's a very special guest who we are absolutely delighted to have on with us. It's the one and only Mr. Daniel Warren Johnson. How are you doing?
Thank you so much. I'm doing well. It's great to be here. I was going to try and say a joke like I only eat red M&Ms, but then I realized we're on a podcast. It doesn't make any sense. So
that still works. They can visualize it. That's
there
good.
You go. Yeah. Diva, right here. Diva.
Excellent. Well, Daniel, we are thrilled to have you on. I mean, your book, the Transformers book, obviously, I mean, all of your comics, I think, it goes stratospheric, but this one has really lit a lot of passion in the Transformers fandom generally. People are loving it. There's a lot of chatter about it. I find that you can't share a cover or like a thought about it online without it going semi-viral anyway, and that just kind of shows you how into it people are. So we're pretty honored because I think we were just saying we're like the first quote unquote Transformers podcast that has managed to tempt you on. So we're really delighted for that. So thank you.
It's awesome.
It's great to be here.
/ wrestling podcast.
So heads up everyone listening, Liam's going to take us off course each time as well. That's what he's going to do.
Well, we do have to talk about wrestling a little bit because I did shoehorn wrestling moves into a Transformers comic,
which is
amazing.
We did notice as well. Which it was.
It's hard to miss.
The MJF license plate is one of my favorites. That was brilliant on the cover.
I'm glad you noticed that. A few people did, and it was a good time.
That's brilliant. It's so good. So good.
Salt of the earth.
Well, Daniel, now that we've got you here, I think one thing that was really intriguing me was actually kind of some of your history with Transformers, just to kind of go back a little bit before we talk a bit about the book itself. I mean, I know from obviously what you wrote, and I know you have a bit of a habit of kind of writing slightly sort of personal things in some of your books about experiences you've had and things like this, and that always kind of comes across really nicely. It was really quite touching to read the bit in Transformers issue 1 about your Optimus Prime with the fists and all of that kind of stuff. But presumably then you were quite a fan growing up. It certainly seems like that was the case.
I definitely was. It's funny because I first got into Transformers through the television show, the G1 show that was on reruns in Massachusetts where I was growing up. I would come home after school and turn it on, and they would just throw on whatever random, rerun they had, the tapes, whatever. So sometimes you get like 2 episodes in a row, like 2 days in a row that were the same episode. It would play like, Heavy Metal Part 1 and then show it the next day, Part 2 or whatever, or Heavy Metal War. So that's how I first experienced it, and I was quite sheltered growing up. My parents were very concerned about like sex and violence, the whole, bad vibes of the 90s. So no pro wrestling, no even like Batman the Animated Series, it's my child screaming.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's right. It seemed well timed as well.
Just
like the trauma of parenting.
Kids like right now,
Yeah.
Kids are a big fan of Batman the Animated Series, I guess.
Exactly.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is not allowed. Any sort of like comic from the present day 90s period there's no way.
Mm-hmm.
But Transformers, for whatever reason, made it through the cacophony of things I wasn't allowed to ingest. So it started with the cartoon, and I loved the cartoon. Watched the movie, changed my life, the cartoon movie.
Cool.
And my dad would sometimes bring me to the comic book store near his work, and they had a bunch of Transformers back issues from the Marvel series back in the 80s. Yeah. So I remember like getting issue 1 and reading it, and then seeing like Spider-Man shows up in issue 2. Like, what the heck?
Wow.
Yeah.
And that whole like mixture of Marvel characters trying to get the book to sell, and basically seeing Transformers on the printed page for the first time in any sort of form, like presented to the public, which I had no idea that was the case as a little kid. So I just wanted to look at the pictures, and that was another way that I kind of got into comics was through Transformers, because it was one of the first ones that I was really allowed to read. So
Yeah, totally.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I remember like buying a bunch of the early issues, and like Optimus Prime isn't in any of them because his head gets removed from his body.
Yeah,
totally. It's really
So
traumatic.
frustrating.
Yeah.
I know. It's like
Absolutely.
there was like one page, it's just his head. I'm like, where's his body? This is bull. Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to.
We can bleep it. It's fine.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
Someone's
Yeah.
not read it. Exactly.
It was very frustrating until issue 12 when he comes back Rex face. So I thought that was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, well, we are all major fans of that comic as well.
Okay, cool.
We've just done an episode which won't have gone live by the time we're recording this, but we've just done one on like our favorite covers and that kind of
Yeah, it was
stuff
good
from
fun.
over the years, and that was really good fun. Did you? I was dying to ask. Did you ever come across the UK version of the book at all, or was it just the US copies? I don't know if you know about this, but the UK had like a whole. It was the same story, but like we got it over 332 issues instead of 80, and it was like expanded storylines and things like this from UK artists. And I don't know if you know names like Jeff Senior and people like that that contributed to the UK book especially, but it was like a whole other thing in itself.
So I'm a big fan of Jeff Senior. I never was exposed to his stuff early on because I didn't really have access to the UK comics.
Yeah.
I did get one UK comic. It was a Prowl-focused issue, or Blue Streak, one of those. I don't remember. One of them made it through to the American market somehow, and I got exposed to it that way. But this was back in the mid to late 90s where I really liked what I was seeing, but I couldn't like get any more of it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
of course.
Yeah, totally.
So, and then as I got older, I developed an appreciation for those artists more, especially Jeff Senior.
Yeah.
He was an incredible artist.
Well,
and has some of the best
wonder.
Transformers art ever in any comic ever.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Because it's one of the things for me. It's interesting to hear you say about that. What got you into comics was Transformers. Because I went and did animation at art school, and it was Jeff Senior that inspired me to follow that journey as well. When I saw it as a kid, and we were chatting about that with the comics cover issue the other week on the podcast as well.
Yeah.
And there's countless fans as well, and people that now work in the industry that were inspired by this comic and these characters that then went on to lead a career in it, which is really quite amazing when you think about it. And was that an obvious bit for you in your career doing that, or was it a kind of journey to get there as a comic creator, comic artist?
You mean to get to Transformers?
Yeah. So did you think that's where I want to go, or was it that you know? Was it even on your radar? Did you even think about it that you'd be working on a brand like such a big brand?
I was so young at the time that I was not thinking about career or vocation or anything like that. I remember trying to get Optimus Prime right in my drawings and failing over and over and over again. And before I had access to the comics, you know, my first experience, TV show, but there was no way to like stop the television show so I could like figure out how to draw the dark characters. There was this old crappy Richie Rich comic that my parents got for me that had an ad for the 86 movie on VHS in the back.
Oh, nice.
And it had like all the Transformers lined up, and Optimus was right in the middle, and I freaking drew that thing
Just
every
copy
day.
it.
Yeah.
Totally.
And I remember like breaking down into tears as a young man. I was like, I'll never be able to draw Optimus Prime correctly. This is the worst, you know. My mom comes over, she's like, why are you crying? You know, and I tell her, she's like, she tries to draw Optimus Prime, but she draws like a hook for a hand. I'm like, what the heck is this? You know?
It's Pirate Optimus Prime, you know.
Brilliant.
He's like, I told you. And I was like, this is worse than my drawing, actually. You actually make me feel better without even trying to.
Moms are great.
That's
Moms
incredible.
are great. So it was way too early. All I can say is that it was a big reason why I started drawing.
Yep.
And so it just got me started, I think. And I aged out of the Marvel comics pretty quickly. As soon as I was able to like figure out how to like make corn CDs like from the CDRs, you know? And just pretend like write with Sharpie that it was actually the Newsboys or DC Talk, but it's actually like Corn or Limp Bizkit.
Yeah,
You know, I found ways to hide my comic book collection from my parents.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so
Brilliant.
the vocation thing, wanting to do comics, wanting to be in any sort of like entertainment art did not really come until college. Why I was
Even a little bit later.
Yeah.
Totally.
That makes sense. I think it's interesting though, because that original comic, I think, cemented, you know, whether it was professions like Jason or just a general love of Transformers, it certainly cemented it for a lot of us as well. And you know, for me growing up, that comic was it. That was like where it all kind of centered around, you know, just the way that the characters were depicted and things like that. And I think, if I'm honest, that's why so many of us really appreciate your book as well, is that it has that sense of kind of nostalgia to it as much as it's a new storyline, that it harkens back to that same vibe, if that makes sense, of those original books in a way, but kind of, a bit more written for adults, if you like. Do you know what I mean? Not necessarily trying to sell toys. So
totally. Yeah, there's an element, I think, and this might be universal to comics, honestly. There's an element of images. Comic art is not cheap by any stretch, but it relative to like trying to animate a show or make a movie or a 5-minute short or anything, the pencil, ink, and paper aspect of just making a story and slapping some like lines down, it has this element of freedom. I think is what I'm trying to say, which I feel is quite universal and has this just lightness and air to it, which honestly I feel is quite infectious. As a reader and as a fan.
Yeah. Do you know, that gives me a good opportunity to ask you about Calvin and Hobbes, because so I'm and Sixo's a massive fan as well. Liam, I'm going to put you in there as well, but like I've got all of Calvin and Hobbes books all the way through. Bill Watson's been like an absolute hero. Never met him, would have loved
incredible.
But just incredible. And what was incredible about it was the fact that it was that proper little kind of 3 frames of and tell such a good story in just 3 individual frames.
Totally.
Which, as an animator, my brain, my film was far too long. It was like 13 minutes long. But to do that, it's such a skill, isn't it? And that's what Bill Watterson did so well. And Calvin and Hobbes, for me, has never been beat in that kind of level. But it's obviously been a big part for you as well, I would say. Is that true?
Huge. That was like the first comic I ever really laid eyes on was Calvin and Hobbes, because that was the first thing I was reading at the public library. I'd just go to wherever there were comics. Yeah. And at the time, it was just daily strips from America, just like put into like book format. This is before they had any sort of comics at all, any Superman, Batman, whatever. And I was just taking it whatever I could. It was basically Calvin and Hobbes and Tintin. That was it.
Right.
Totally. Yeah.
So Tintin was another one that I definitely was influenced by. And,
I had Asterix on
Asterix was one too. Yeah.
Grandparents and stuff like that. French illustrators. Like if you go, I remember whenever I go to Paris and there's like amazing comic and bookshops out there, and you'd find just beautiful. There's nothing that I like more than like an illustrated book that is just visuals and no words, and it manages to tell a story. It's really impressive. But good company, all those, actually. They're really nice as well.
Yeah, definitely. It was funny because we were talking actually in one of our previous chats about Skybound, about your series, and I think we actually made the comparison to Calvin and Hobbes with some of the ways that you draw fighter jets and things like this. Like it really reminded me of Bill Watterson. When you get like the things with like T-Rexes in the jets and things. Totally. Sometimes he would really break out of his usual style and kind of do these quite sketchy but really artistic, sort of stylized, more real world elements to it. And I see some of that in your style as well a little bit. Would you count that as an influence at all, or is that just coincidence, do you think? Or
I think it's got to be an influence, because I remember those strips, because I know exactly what you're talking about. Every once in a while, there'd be like an impeccably drawn F-14 fighter jet flying to the sky in the Calvin and Hobbes comic, where he's just straight up flexing. It's like what I could do.
Absolutely.
And I thought that would stick out to me. I'm like, that is a well drawn, fighter jet, and so that mixed with the uber cartoony element of Calvin and Hobbes, it is a great contrast there. So those were always my favorite of the strips, of all the Calvin and Hobbes strips growing up. And they still, like, I look back on them now because I have the whole, like, big collection. Yeah. I flip through it. I'm like, that is still a great F-14 drawing, man.
Yeah, totally. It really is. It's like his Spaceman Spiff. He'd do, like, a Spaceman Spiff section. And then he'd do this, like, massive kind of spread of, like, the planet. And it would just be, like, it'd be properly painterly and stuff. And
so good.
Certainly one of the first times I think I became aware as a kid of, like, of the way art could be used differently, in different mediums and things like that. So, I mean, what about the toys though? Because I know you obviously mentioned that you had Optimus Prime, the toy. Did you have many more Transformers toys and things like that, or was it were they not allowed in as well?
No, the toys were definitely, that was whatever. Toys were no problem. I remember the only Transformers toys I had, because they were quite expensive, I think. My grandfather got me the Optimus Prime, and that was the first. And then I managed to get 2 Constructicons, the yellow ones, the
Oh, right, yeah.
reissues.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had a Grimlock, and I loved that Grimlock. Man.
Nice. That's a great toy.
It's a great toy.
Yeah.
I remember I didn't have many. I had way more Star Wars toys and way more like superhero action figure stuff because they're cheaper.
Yeah.
Yes. You should check out our Tatman miniseries.
You should actually, Daniel. Yeah.
Get alert for we talk about X-Men.
We'll send it to you. If
Batman.
you want to hear Liam talk about random tatty
Vintage
toys
toy
from
lines.
vintage
Not,
toy
not
lines.
that Star
That's
Wars is a
yeah.
Tatman episode at all.
No.
You know.
I remember getting frustrated with the playing with my Transformers because I always had a very narrative way of playing with my toys. I remember this specifically, and like I wanted them to transform, and I have to take like 20 minutes out of my playtime to transform them all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was doing the noise for 20
Really
minutes.
interrupts the flow.
Yeah. That's the reason that I have like 21 different G1 Optimus Primes, so I don't have
Of
that
course.
problem anymore. You know, that's why
Yes.
that's why I've done that. Honestly, it's not
Yeah.
a problem. I
Yeah,
promise.
Yeah, my
so.
wife once, it was like 5 years into our marriage. She goes, "Hey, when do you think your Optimus Prime collection will be complete?" And I was like,
Don't answer
it's
that.
like it's like putting down a puppy. I'm like, "Oh, honey."
Yeah.
I was going to ask that then. So, did you keep up with Transformers with like the brand as such after that, or did you? Because like you obviously have got some of the figures and things then now.
Well, it came full circle when I was a senior in college. I had no money, and that was when the first Masterpiece Optimus Prime was coming out.
Right.
This is like 08?
Well,
2008?
it was
04 was it?
03 was the first
03,
one.
04,
03
yeah.
was the first one, but it got several releases. So
Okay,
when
I got
it
the
came
one with
to
the
the
really
US,
short
yeah.
smokestacks because everybody was
Oh, yeah.
afraid
Right.
they were
Yeah.
going to poke their eyes out,
Yeah.
which was dumb.
Totally.
I remember sending my mom a message because it was maybe like $80 at the time. I don't.
yeah.
I was like, "Look, I've just thrown it out there just in case you don't have any ideas for me for Christmas." You know, like I just like
Love
here's
it.
a like casual email, whatever.
Nice.
And Christmas was at my grandparents' house that year, just luck of the draw. And I opened up the Optimus Prime toy in my grandparents' house,
Wow.
and my grandfather was like, "Oh, what the hell is this?"
Brilliant.
And I was like, my nanny, my grandmother, was like, "Rocco, stop it. He wants what he wants." And my mom was like, "Is he asked for this?" And I was like, so happy. You know, I'm like, "Oh, thank you so much, Mom." He's like, "Oh,
hilarious.
he's an adult. He can't be opening presents like
Oh,
this."
no, brilliant.
And I was like, "Papa, you got me my first Optimus
Yeah.
Prime, and here it is, like the full-grown one." He's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
No, this is no good."
Oh,
He
man.
really had trouble digesting that one. But so ever since then, it's been a bit of it's been an expensive hobby, obviously.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
We're
one that
familiar.
one that I mostly kind of looked like through the glass like this,
Sure.
even into adulthood, because it did take me quite a few hours to get the nerve to press send on that email. Like, "I do want this, Mom."
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and also like when I started I was a teacher for a little while, but before then I worked like a dead end job at a hospital, moving patients around, minimum wage.
Sure.
There's not any room in the budget for
No,
Masterpiece
yeah.
Not at all.
Transformers.
No, that's true.
So it wasn't until I was kind of in the comic world and I had like a little bit of success, and I mean a little, where I would have like maybe a few extra bucks in my pocket after a convention. You're walking the floor and there's that, I'm looking at my Optimus Prime case here. I remember buying the Masterpiece Ultra Magnus.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just really loving that. And being like, "Okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it."
Yeah.
Full cash out. So it's been slow but steady. And I do have, as far as the toys are concerned, that's kind of my journey through the toys, very slowly. And then the rest of it, I never really read much of the IDW stuff, not because I was against or anything. I was only buying a few comics at the time. I remember buying the trades of All Hail Megatron, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And I definitely read in high school the Dreamwave Transformers that come
Yeah,
That's
that
so
would
funny.
because that makes sense where it would hit
Yeah.
for the age
Yeah.
you were and
Yeah.
when it was
That was
released.
the thing
and
that
stuff.
opened the door for all of this, like we talked about before. That was the thing that brought so many people back into it. I remember seeing that in a comic shop because I've been into comic shops for decades, and seeing it for the first time on the shelf, it was like, oh my gosh, that logo, those robots. Batman's forgotten for today, kids. Transformers are back.
Absolutely.
I remember I
yeah.
had the big poster with Optimus Prime, kind of like, with the gun, and really
Yeah.
being blown away by the colors and the presentation and the blockiness, which I really like and I still like to this day. It's bold.
Fellow fan.
Yeah.
So
Really
this
cool
is really
stuff.
interesting because this came up in our comic cover chat, didn't it? And
Yeah.
it was just like,
Did.
and this is because we do remember that because of the artwork. That's what we
It
do.
was so fresh and dynamic for the time. That's what people don't remember. It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
Transformers
It was
coming back
huge.
and this new.
It was
It's that
huge.
early 2000s where everything sort of started to look like anime for a bit. Everything looked like Digimon for a little while. So it has that similar style.
Yeah.
And he's got that from Transformers. It was like, whoa, this is new, fresh, exciting, it's colourful, bright. These characters represented in this new art style. It's brilliant. Absolutely amazing time.
Yeah, it did.
Yep. It was one of the first real breakouts of like truly successful like Photoshop colors.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
And nice
it was like,
printing too.
yeah,
It's true.
Yeah,
It's funny though because it's an era that a lot of people have sort of forgotten a bit about now, and
Yes.
it came up recently online. There was some chatter about it, and because obviously, I mean, we're talking a good 20, 25 years ago for some of this stuff, and it's like the
Stop
really
it.
younger crowd.
Stop
I know it's terrible, isn't it? But like the
You will
really
find
younger.
that this podcast makes you feel older than you
Oh, yeah.
remember that you actually are
yeah.
repeatedly when it's like, that
I
didn't
know.
happen 10
Yeah.
years ago. Oh, you mean 20 years ago? Oh,
Yeah.
yep, yeah.
And
sorry,
Liam, he's the
thanks.
youngest one here. You've lost your
Yeah, I
claim,
know.
mate.
No,
So,
Like,
I think
old man
Daniel
Sixo and
is.
Jason.
Daniel is
Oh,
now.
gosh, yeah.
yeah,
Well, I'm still,
that's what I
still
mean.
mid-table. I'm still younger than you guys.
Sure,
Ancient.
yeah, by a matter of months, mate. But
Yeah.
that's never
It's
mind.
your birthday recently. You're now officially a year older than me. So it's
Yeah, that's
ancient.
how it works. That's how it works.
Calm down, old man. Calm down.
That's a really good point, Sixo. I mean, like a lot of the fans that are into Transformers now, I mean, they completely missed the path of Transformers.
Absolutely that.
Yeah.
But I find what has almost happened is that sort of mid 2000s era pre-movie, the 2007 movie, has sort of almost been erased from public consciousness because it's like, the younger fans, a lot of them grew up with the Bay films and things like that, and so to them that's their entry point into this
Yep.
universe.
Mm-hmm.
And anything that kind of came before that is not really the sort of focal point of any real discussion or anything like that. So like even like I would say that pretty much the entirety of Dreamwave has sort of been shunted off to the side somewhere and just kind of forgotten about a little bit.
It's a
to
weird
the point where
footnote, despite how influential it was.
That's
and
the thing.
is, and it's forgotten that it was. So it's just strange.
Yeah. Totally.
It definitely got me back onto the Transformers train, and got me into the comic book store, and was one of the only like current comics that I was buying every month that it
It
would
was the
come
same
out.
for me. Totally. Yeah.
It was one of about 25 I would have every week in my standing order. It was the one I was always most excited for, though. It's like The Flash? No. Transformers, there we go.
But I think it definitely led this sort of Transformers revolution a little bit at that point, sort of leading up to the big screen films and stuff. It kind of, if anything, it was the sort of proof of concept that people were still interested in this old toy brand from the 80s, that there was still that kind of more mainstream audience and everything. And it was doing huge numbers for a comic. I mean, it was outselling
It was
Marvel
number
and
one
DC.
in the
It was number
chart.
one,
yeah.
What people don't remember is huge numbers, like massive numbers for comics at that time. And comics at that time was still moving big numbers, like comparatively, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not huge, but I remember it like taking the comic world by storm for sure.
Yeah.
At least in the States. Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess it would be interesting then thinking about, like, you obviously mentioned Jeff Sr. Like, are there any other comic artists, Transformers artists from over the years that have really kind of captured your imagination or really kind of influenced your approach to this book? Or
I remember Don Perlin was big. He did a lot of the American Transformers comics, like a little bit later on.
Yeah.
He did the issue of Optimus Prime in the video game. I believe that's issue
Yeah.
Is that 16?
You're quizzing me now. US issue numbers are not my forte.
I had the
We
UK. It was probably
Yeah.
164 for us by that
Yeah,
point.
exactly. It was triple digits, certainly.
Yeah, exactly.
There's one panel because they had all these combiners. I'm
Yes.
pretty sure it was the Protectobots that get together in the beginning of that issue. And there's this one panel of like fully formed Protectobot. Oh my god, my street cred. Sorry, I can't remember the Protectobot's name.
Defensor.
Thank you. There's Optimus Prime with his gun and Defensor's behind him.
Yeah.
With his gun, and I was like, that is a bomb-ass panel. I love that.
Yeah.
And then I read the comic, and I was like, this is BS. I'm not reading Marvel Comics Transformers anymore.
That's so funny. Totally.
But I do really like, there's this kind of like stiff, makes it seem inherently negative. But there's like this like attractive stiffness to Don Perlin's lines. I don't remember who was inking him at the time, but I really liked that. I really liked his style, and he drew a great. Every time he drew the Protectobots, just seemed like he had a little more edge to him, like he was like cared a little more.
Yeah,
and I really liked that. And I also, Pat Lee definitely has been a huge kind
That's
of like
interesting.
Well, I guess it's interesting that you talk about the Dreamwave stuff and how like it's kind of been forgotten, because like honestly, without the Dreamwave series, I mean, I don't know if I would have stayed a Transformers fan. I'd like to think that I was, but like I was in high school when it was coming out, and I was so pumped about it, and it was like a reminder. It's like, oh my god, I remember, I love this. This is everything I love about the cartoon.
Yeah,
and the blockiness, I never seen it before, and I would draw like Pat Lee, like the Transformers that he was drawing in a way in his style. So Jeff Senior for sure. A lot of the I'm sorry I don't remember their names, but the Generation 2, Transformers Generation 2.
Well, okay, this is interesting. It's I was going to ask you about this, whether this was a thing or not, because it's Derek Yaniger is the main artist, and I did wonder, because there are. Again, there's a sort of almost Jeff Senior quality to some of Derek Yaniger's stuff. There's at least a meet in the middle point somewhere there.
There is for sure. Good eye.
And it's the sort of blockiness of it and the square lines and things like this. And your style is different, but there are definitely panels where I think people have looked at it and gone, well, okay, there's a little bit of Generation 2 in here and things like that as well. So
yeah, it's in that kind of cross hatching and the kind of slightly kind of more rugged elements of it sometimes that I kind of see in it, in the line that you're doing as well.
I remember buying issue 6, Prime Target.
Right. I remember.
And that cover really blowing me away. And it doesn't quite, I mean, no offense to the guy, it just doesn't quite hold up. Like in the interiors, like I think he might have been like on a deadline.
Right. Well, a lot of the interiors by this point were being done by someone else, sadly.
Okay, you're probably right. So I mean, like I think the attitude I think of Generation 2 definitely left a mark, and the kind of grittiness and intensity.
Yeah.
And because I remember like showing my dad Generation 2 comic, he's like, this is all the characters are too angry.
Yeah, right.
There's too much like brutal emotion here. Let's go back to the G1, like, and so I only had a few issues of Generation 2, but they just stick out in my mind. Other than that, though, the Transformers artists in general never, especially as I got older, they weren't necessarily like blowing my hair back. Things that made me even consider doing a Transformers comic would be maybe more of the manga crowd that was doing mech stuff. Like,
totally.
This is either during or after college, like Masamune Shiro from Ghost in the Shell and Appleseed, and then the Gundam the Origin artist. Oh, his name is escaping. Oh my god, it's right over there. Hold on, sorry. One second. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, go and check. That's cool.
It's like we can describe what you're doing. He's walking to the other side of the room.
Yeah.
All of his Optimus Primes. He's not picking them up. Sorry.
Okay,
Jason,
sorry about that.
It's like you've taken up sports commentary.
I know. I'm sports commentary.
Yoshihaku, Kazuchiko. He basically designed the RX-78 Gundam, and he went back to Gundam the Origin, which is like a comic book retelling of the original Gundam series in his own vision, with like totally unobstructed. And reading that in volume 1, seeing the Zakus come out of the darkness, illustrated like mechanical things illustrated with such fervor and passion and liveliness, and a technical texture and a tactile way. Like, thank you. Yeah, just like really like images that are really fun to look at.
Yeah.
That was like, okay, I could see myself doing a robot comic someday.
Well, that all kind of brings us on nicely, because my next question really was, I mean, why Transformers now then? Because of course you've had a lot of, well, it seems like anyway from my perspective, a lot of artistic freedom with stuff like, do a power bomb and, even some of your earlier stuff as well. And I've got to assume that Transformers as a book is very different to that in some regards anyway. I watched one of your YouTube videos, your sort of, do you call them director's commentary? Is that the...
Yeah.
And you were talking about like the number of engines on the Ark and things like this that had to be changed.
Oh, yeah,
So,
complete nonsense.
yeah. I mean, so there must be more restrictive elements to doing this than a lot of your other work, right?
There are, yes. Ultimately, yes. There are things that when working on it, that really, in the grand scheme of things, do not matter. Like, do I want to draw 2 more engines on this stupid arc? No. But I'll do it because, whatever. It's like, it's just 2 more engines. I think we're all going to be okay,
Yeah.
And no big deal. And then the thing that I was struggling with, and, I still struggle with to some degree, is just the kind of more corporate take on like the characters that have been around for a long time.
Right.
I understand that Hasbro definitely has a vested interest in keeping things, keeping the money wheel turning. I completely understand that. But I think it's also kind of my role as an artist to completely get in the way of that.
Yeah.
To challenge it. Yeah.
And that's
kind of see where you can push it to.
Yes, it's something that I've had to do a lot. And it's been a great working relationship all around, honestly, And I've had to make some concessions, and I've had to stick my foot in the, or stick my flag in the sand, on the island, being like, this is the way it has to be.
Yeah,
totally.
But there's only been a few times where it's like, I really feel that this is the way the story has to go. And
are there any examples you can share with us of like maybe one thing that you really had to kind of fight for, or that you were quite passionate about? Or?
Yes. Optimus, accidentally stepping on the deer was a big.
Oh, really?
Wow. I tell everybody about that scene.
It's like a standout moment.
Such a great moment. I was telling my girlfriend about it just now, about like just that whole part, and about the fact that the fragility, how it defines Prime, but also then about them not being on a metal world. It's such a great.
It's really haunting.
Good for you for putting the flag in the ground there, because that is a superb bit of storytelling.
It's legitimately one of the best moments in the book so far, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It defines Prime so well, just right
from
from
the
get-go.
Yeah.
Amazing. And if you read it back to back with the end of issue 1, it's a complete 180 turn from the main villain of the first Starscream, who sees a human life and is like, well, cool.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's the exact opposite. And I wrote it, and it, sometimes, as I don't want to sound too artsy-fartsy, but every once in a while you write something that is so true or is so like it's
like
just
on point.
There's something that clicks. It's like it makes sense in your head. There's a vibe, and you can see. It's almost like I can see in the future. I was like, this page is going to go viral.
Absolutely.
Great. And it did, and I had to really fight for it. Hasbro was very worried that the branding. They were like, we're worried about the branding of Optimus, like stepping on a deer. And I'm like, well, okay, but they're like, could he step on a squirrel? Like,
oh, really?
He can't step on a squirrel.
That's better.
He wouldn't even notice, would he?
Hanging it by his tail, like.
They were trying to find ways around it, and I was like, it's a deer, or he doesn't step on it at all.
Yeah.
And I was in the middle of drawing issue 1. I was in the middle of drawing issue 1 because I was writing issue 2 at the time, and I was having a really good time, and I had to call my editor, and I was like, hey, look. It's the deer has to go or I go. I didn't sing it out loud, but I was a little bit like, and I don't like doing that, where it's like the diva artist is like, it has to be this way or it doesn't happen at all. But I felt so strongly about it. It was such a huge character moment, and sets the tone for Optimus for the next, I don't know, 50 issues at least.
Yeah, 100%. It really does. We talked about it when we went through the episode. Through the issue, and we're chatting about it. We chatted about that bit for a good chunk of the podcast.
Yeah. It's caused so much conversation online, and I don't know how aware of it you are, but a lot of fans have said that they're so grateful for that moment, because to them, they've seen now several decades of what's often called murder Optimus, from the films and things, like the more bloodthirsty Optimus, where he's like, I'll kill you and all of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that moment, I think for a lot of people was like, thank you. This is my Optimus. This is the Optimus that I know from my childhood that I grew up with. I'm not speaking about just me. A lot of people were like this, where it was like just that slight breath of fresh air. And it felt like a return to something that we were familiar with while still being its own thing. If that makes sense.
I also think, in Hasbro's defense, like the people that are making these comments on changes and stuff, they're not necessarily comic book people. It's like, it's like the marketing, like there's like the issue 1 and 2 of this new launch. Everybody's just a little on edge,
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so they're like, I'm just going to step on a deer. And they haven't necessarily read any of my other work where it's like, I think maybe reading it from an outline perspective, it almost might seem a little jokey or like, haha, like a little bit like poking fun, like, isn't this kind of silly? Whereas, and my editor knew this as I was telling him. He's like, I know, they just don't quite understand like where you're coming from. And if they could just see it, I think they would get it. And I think when they saw it executed, they were like, something clicked. Yeah, and then we got the numbers back on issue 1, and then things got really easy.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's so good.
They were happy then at that point. That's good.
Speaking of that, then, so when it went out, and then you were waiting for the numbers to come back, how were you feeling? Were you feeling confident, or you were a bit of trepidation, or do you remember? Was it a bit of a blur?
Oh, I didn't think about it at all.
Because you're obviously just progressing with the issues, yeah?
I'm just going. Like... The deadlines were crushing me, and I was going as fast as I could, and while also taking my time and like making it precious. And I have, especially because I don't have like a financial like vested interest in the success of Transformers as a franchise.
Yeah. Sure.
I make it as best as I can, and then I just walk out the door. It's what it is.
Yeah, totally. It's a job. Yeah.
Yes, it is a job, and to treat it anything else, like, of course, I'm super passionate about the Transformers, super passionate about Optimus, the whole gang. I want to make it as absolutely as amazing as I can, but there is a distance there that has to be maintained. Otherwise, I just, and that was the thing. Like, I really didn't like having to have any like conflict about the deer. I'm like, this is so, at nighttime, I'd be like, this is so dumb.
Yeah.
I'm like,
why am I arguing with Hasbro
wrestling with this corporate entity to like try and kill a deer? Like, in the scheme of things, what does this even matter? Why am I fighting this fight? And is a balance. It's like it's a razor's edge because I can fall on either side.
Yeah, totally.
Really quickly. So, all that to say, it's been a awesome time, and if anything, a bit of a break from like my creator-owned stuff. So
really,
right? Yeah, really. Yeah.
Is that because you've got like a sort of pre-existing template in a way that you've got this sort of framework of stuff from the past, of influences and things to kind of draw on, or versus just kind of literally it all coming from your head?
So there is an element of like the sandbox has been made, and like as soon as there's a sandbox that you can see clearly, like from a helicopter view, you can start like bouncing off the walls within the sandbox.
That makes sense.
Having a really great time with all the toys that already exist. Whereas when you make a new book with, let's say, a new world sci-fi, which I do a lot of, there's no box, there's nothing keeping you in. I mean, you're like, outer space, man, where are we going? Like,
totally.
What are the rules? I don't know. And you can't make a story out of that. There needs to be limitations. There has to be an avenue that people can make sense in their head as you go down towards the inevitable conclusion of whatever story you might be trying to deliver. So Transformers, like, it has this built-in world and built-in kind of structure, which every once in a while is like really fun. Just kick the door down. When people don't expect it, which makes everything easier and everything just a little bit more smooth. And it's just not quite as difficult to make a script from nothing. Whereas
that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
Particularly as some of your original concepts are, I mean, I've certainly reading in numerous of your books have had moments where I'm like, I don't think I've ever read anything like this before. Do you know what I mean? They're pretty original concepts, if you don't mind me saying. So in a great way, you know.
Thank you. No, I take that as a compliment all day. I'll take that right to the bank.
Yeah,
that makes me very happy. And so trying to instill my own kind of vision within Transformers, it's almost more like a new way to apply a paintbrush on a canvas that we've kind of seen before, which was a lot of the complaints when people first saw, like, I got slammed with so many, this is just G1 all over again. I'm like, okay, you give it like more than 20 pages, guys.
Yeah,
totally.
That's more than just the cover of seeing Optimus Prime.
Oh yeah.
I love seeing the text because I love Do a Powerbomb. It's one of my favorite comics. And when I saw, when you did it in the Transformers comics as well with the text, you know, in the background and stuff, And I was like, come on, man, where's Tiger Driver 98 or something? That. I was waiting for that to pop up. I love that, the touch, like when you do the touch, the music and stuff like that. It's such
genius.
that
was another thing we had to change too. I had the actual lyrics in the background.
Oh, that's right. The lyrics.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that what
the
song?
We can't have this. We have to get permission from Stan Bush every single time we use the lyrics already.
Oh, right. Wow.
And I was like, so who has Stan Bush's number? Let's go.
Yeah. I thought it worked out pretty well, actually.
So well. Yeah. Everyone got it.
I think it was better
get around it a little bit.
For what you did.
Yeah. There might be one reader out there who's like, yeah, Dare. That's the song.
Exactly. Get it slightly wrong, yeah.
But so this is the thing. It's like when we're reading the comic, we're chatting about it, and that you're dropping in a lot of little Easter eggs and just elements like that, these background elements. Even like we started finding ourselves talking about the typography that's getting used and the style of it. And we're like, oh, is Daniel doing a nod back to that cover from UK and all this kind of stuff? And are you just doing that as part of, like, are you putting that in when you're writing, or is that when you're drawing it and actually just thinking, okay, I'm going to drop this in for a bit of fun? How far is the planning?
To be totally honest, like the adding in of the Stan Bush thing, that was the last minute decision that I just literally threw onto the page.
Yeah,
cool. Amazing.
That's just in the background, like on the actual, like if the original art has the actual lyrics on it.
Yeah. A
lot of times it's a little bit of a vibe where you're just like, this needs something, and then you just kind of throw it on there and it works.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
But as far as like shouting out stuff from like Easter eggs and things, I think they happen more in the art than they do in the scripts, because I'm not in that zone in the script section. Like when I'm writing a script, it's like survival.
That's hard. Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
I feel your pain.
Just trying to figure out a beat that makes sense and get in the characters' minds. Every once in a while, I'll have something in my head, but it doesn't necessarily like make it onto the page. And then sometimes it's very specific, but it's pretty rare, I think.
Yeah.
I don't want to be too cute with like pulling from things.
Mm-hmm.
But, I never say never. You just never know what may come. And
I didn't know if I presume some of it comes from somewhere, like, with Thundercracker specifically in issue 7, where we get that scene. Is it 7 or 8 now? I'm struggling to remember which one it was, but we have that scene where he's on the battleship and he's
8. Yep.
It's 8.
Yeah, 8. Yeah, it's when he's showing a bit of fragility. Yeah.
Exactly. And that, to me and to a lot of people, directly harkened back to his original toy tech spec, for example, because that detail is in there. And I didn't know if that was the kind of thing that maybe you do look at, or just it's in your brain, or where that.
What else am I going to use?
Right?
Oh, really? Yeah, that's cool.
I don't want. I think there's like part of it is like, okay, there's a new member of the cast. Let's just see what the text says.
Right.
Yeah,
like the ancient Bible, you open it up and it's like, what does the Old Testament have to say about it?
Brilliant. Yeah, totally.
That's interesting.
There is an element of that. But like that also kind of, we can talk about spoilers here, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think, if anybody's listening to this and they haven't read the entirety of the book, certainly there's a couple of questions I've got that are going to get spoilery.
So I don't use it as a rule. So like sometimes I will read something or I'll do a little research and kind of see what's been done before. And I'm like, let's hint at that, or let's kind of play into that because it feels true to me and fits within the story. And then sometimes I just throw it away, like with Astro Train,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Astro Train is like the bear Jew of the Decepticons, like from the Glorious Bastards, and that's kind of how I'm writing him. And he's really fun to write. He's like boisterous and insane a little bit. And not at all the kind of whimpering, like, it shed some weight, I'll never get back to Cybertron.
Yeah. Very different.
Which, like, I never was into. I always really loved the idea of Astro Train, but, like, seeing a new is like, So I've totally gone a 180 with Astro Train. And he's so much fun to write. I mean, in the script, I have all caps whenever he talks.
Oh, brilliant. He's always shouting. I love it.
Or like, there's always like an element of like, fool!
Just anger.
Yeah.
Totally. Amazing.
Kind of comes off the page a little bit.
It does.
It does.
And are there like other characters that, you mentioned about like it won't all be G1? Are there like other eras or other characters kind of from the sort of future, if you like, of where we are now that you'd be interested to kind of bring into the book? I mean, I don't know if you're like a Beast Wars fan, for example. A lot of people are like,
oh yeah,
that kind of stuff.
I love Beast Wars.
Oh, nice.
Writing a Beast
Sixo's got a friend. Yay.
Awesome. I love Beast Wars. I So, one of the things though, when setting the tone of the G1, like the element of like G1 is like, we wanted to kind of have the status quo for a while.
Of course.
And, in fact, when I signed on to do the book, I said, like, before I signed on the contract, like, hey, this is a return to form, right? This is G1 focused, like, going classic. And they were like, yes, 100%, we're going classic, let's do it. And then Hasbro asked to see some designs of just how I would approach these characters. And I was like, sure. I mean, they're basically going to be the cartoon, but sure, we'll do that. And I sent them all just the cartoon-based drawings. And Hasbro was like, whoa, we thought he was going to come up with all new designs, like for 2024.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Like with new cars, like that would like reflect the times. And I was like, guys, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
So we had to kind of convince Hasbro a little bit, like, hey, this is
really? Wow.
This is something that, by all means, it is a long series. We have a lot of different things to do. We can update modes if we want. But I remember Robert specifically in an email chain going like, Soundwave has to be a cassette.
Yeah.
That was like one of the things, where he also helped kind of fight for that. So G1 is the first love to be, and I've been open and honest about that since the beginning.
Yeah.
I have no shame about it whatsoever. I love some of the character designs, some of the vibes of later stuff, IDW, and of course like Beast Wars. I mean, there's so many elements of the Transformers franchise that I'd love to kind of like go into, but honestly, the cast is already so big, and
that's the thing.
And me, I love killing off characters.
Well,
so yeah,
this
that was one of our questions, wasn't it? Yeah.
Oh, are you going to talk to me about Bumblebee?
Well, no. Well, that was brutal, and I
you
cried
had to go
for a week.
That was amazing. What a way to set the tone.
How do you decide? Is there a plan here? And was it like Bumblebee's a good example where you're taking out a fan favorite purposefully right at the beginning, but then we're reading into that going, all right, well, he's just taken out Optimus's kind of best mate, and it's like this is that's defining the comic right from the get go as well. So is that how do you decide and behind that?
Well, a big part of it goes back to that original kind of thing that I said about bouncing off the walls of the sandbox.
Yeah,
you can kind of see everything because like we have social media and forums and YouTube videos. You can't necessarily put your finger on the pulse, but you can get an idea.
Mm-hmm.
And with the culture of Transformers, at least before the Skybound thing came out, it's like Bumblebee.
Yeah.
And in the back of my head, I was like, it's time.
Game on Bumblebee.
And I also I really don't like the circular designs, the G1 Bumblebee cartoon, of like his arm, I just don't, I didn't want to draw it.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I don't want to draw it, I'll just kill him.
Just kill him.
It was a practical decision. I love it.
He's got like a little hit list.
It was partly kind of like a little bit of a I don't really like seeing Bumblebee everywhere. I'm tired.
Fair enough.
It was also, like you said, like Optimus's buddy, the gif of come here, Bumblebee, I'm going to hug you, throwing that in the trash. Or no, not throwing it in the trash, sorry. Using it for emotional effect. And it's through Optimus's reaction to the Bumblebee dying that you see Spike start to emote with Optimus Prime.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which was this big part of issue 1 where I was like, it's obviously it's giant robots and stuff from space, but there has to be a reason why this 20-year-old boy doesn't just run screaming the other way.
Totally.
Keeps him rooted. So there's an element of Optimus Prime that keeps him there, and he sees it. There's no talking at all, just Optimus emoting, and Spike sees it, and then we have a piece of character for both Optimus and for Spike. And all that had to happen was he had to die.
Yeah.
That was the defining moment. Yeah,
but I think we're obviously seeing, particularly in the latest issue, with Jetfire coming back in some form at least.
Sure,
that some of these characters
that's going to haunt me forever. That panel, those words, leave me on my head. I can't get it out of my head.
What's so funny is I really wanted to. This is a thing that Hasbro asked for. Actually, I had written, I really needed a way for the Autobots to get around because none of them can fly. And it doesn't make any sense. It's just like a logistical thing. I'm like, okay, let's just get them into a vehicle so they, and And it makes sense, like a scouting vehicle, whatever. And I was like, okay, they'll use like the transformed mode of Jetfire, where like they use him like as a spaceship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they would obviously be like, Optimus would have a moment where he'd put his hands on the nose and be like, "Thank you, my friend, for letting us but thank you again, my friend." Some sort of moment where he addresses Jetfire, what he used to be, and how he's going to be helping the cause. But Hasbro was like, it's too morbid. We don't want like the husk of Jetfire to be piloted around the Autobots. I'm like, well, okay, I guess. So then I had to write him being alive.
Couldn't
and not like. So then I was reading it, like I wrote it, and I was like, my God, this is so effed up.
It really is.
I can't see the stars anymore.
Yeah. What
like,
a line, though.
It was
it's a great line, and Jorge heals the art. Like, it's on Optimus's face, which I did not say. Like, I didn't direct him to do that. It was on Optimus's face, as you see from off panel. I can't see the stars anymore. I'm like, oh my God, it's like Johnny got his gun, but like Transformers, it's terrible. I feel terrible, but I really needed them to have a vehicle, and I was like, it's too late now. I've already beaten out all of Arc 2. Like, he's got to be in there.
We're doing this.
So that was unwitting. That was I actually, it's a heavy beat, which I really do like. So thank you, Hasbro. But it came off way darker than I think either of us intended. So.
Well, that's so mad.
That's
so fun. It's fun every once in a while, the things that lead to creative decisions. So
one of the things that I wanted to ask you about as well was that so when reading the comic, then a big part of it for me personally that I'm reading into it is grief and loss throughout it for different characters. Is that an intentional kind of main part of the story arc of like this kind of that you want to explore that, or within the kind of Autobots in particular and the humans?
Well, for all of my projects in the past, I try and like distill a story down to like a sentence with like what I'm trying to say. Like with Murder Falcon, it was healing power of music. Like if it didn't really bolster that element, I didn't put it in the book. Sometimes when working on a licensed book or a book like for Marvel or DC, there's no time. The deadlines it's like you agree to do it and you're off to the races and you're figuring out that before you really figure it out. So this is the same thing happened with Optimus or with Transformers and Optimus Prime and the gang, and I was having to kind of find it as I was writing it, so I'm like writing page 1 and I'm like, oh, here we go. We're going into fourth gear here, down the hill. And sometimes you don't really get to figure that out until like issue 5 or 6. I mean, sometimes it just works out that way with just schedules and how life works with this making comics and any kind of entertainment medium.
Yeah, of course. But
there was a big element of, this sentence kind of kept creeping into my mind as I was writing the book. We're more the same than we are different. And that was something that I kind of tried to write into, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of different ways you could approach the story. I'm hesitant to give you like one.
No, that's fine.
No,
but there's like I think, I don't know. Nobody wants to read a comic about Optimus getting his windshield wipers replaced,
Yeah, totally. But the reason I mention it is because as an artist and a creator, like how people read into the work that you do, and that's what I kind of love about it, is that you create something with a vision of what you're doing, and then you how people react to it and how they interpret it, and it comes very much from like personal experiences for people that are doing it, and for me, a good piece of artwork does that. Which is what this comic is doing for me. When I read it's exploring things that don't normally get explored in a comic, and particularly a Transformers comic, which is refreshing and gives us a lot to talk about, which is great because then people tune in.
Something that is happening by accident is the importance of like nature and the world that we live in, and life in general. So, and like had the preciousness of it as people get blown apart and got
totally squishy.
I've tried to write different things with different tones, and the best that I can do is like Starscream cracking jokes. It's like he crushes humans. I don't really understand. I gotta be honest. I've gotten a fair amount of critique for like having like a violent Transformers book that's like mean spirited. I'm like, are you even reading the book?
No,
see, that's funny, isn't it? Yeah, it's so different to how I'm reading it. Yeah.
A lot of it works by comparison, as you sort of said earlier. It's juxtaposition between like Starscream and Optimus, and like, what's going on with Cliffjumper and how he's responding to something versus someone else. And the subtext of it all is, I think, quite clear. I would have thought.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think a lot of people just don't. I don't think they read the story as much as they see characters dying, and then they sort of get
they jump
in that, and
they
kind of get lost in that rather than seeing like the reasons for it and remembering they're robots. They can probably come back anyway as space taxis like Jetfire.
I will say, I do regret killing off 3 loved Transformers in one go at the beginning of the issue 7.
Totally. We were going to talk about that.
It was funny.
We just did an episode on that, didn't we?
We did.
We were all like horrified. I was like,
it's like, what?
Not spoilers. When Huffer went, it was like, then the couple was like, at least Warpath was, oh my gosh, no.
In the background as well. You did it in the background.
Warpath is like Liam's favourite Transformer, by the way, or one of them.
And here's the thing,
don't kill Blue Streak,
Warpath.
Please.
I love Warpath, and I couldn't figure out any other way to get him in, where I was like,
kill him.
It's like, I can show him, but then he has to die. We can't have too many nice things.
Yeah. Take one for the team. Absolutely. Oh my goodness.
It was a funny moment because I think I was one of the people online or whatever. Because obviously, you're right. There was this critique about, they're killing off a lot of characters or whatever. And, people were like, we're never going to get a Jetfire story now, for example. I mean, spoiler alert, we did, but that's by the by. And I was one of the people who was like, well, wait and see. They're clearly raising the stakes, and it's not like they're killing off that many people. And then I opened issue 7, and I was like,
okay. Oh god.
I'm going to apologize. I apologize, Cup fans.
No.
It's amazing though, because you're picking major characters as well. Like a lot of the times, it's always like people create new characters just to kill off, to avoid this kind of thing. But here it's like people's favorites turning up like, it's funny.
I genuinely thought, Daniel, that you just had like a basically G1 mini Autobots on your desk, and you're just like flicking them with your finger, going, "You're going next." Boom. Bye, Sea Spray. Yeah, exactly.
I will say, when I was deciding who I was going to kill in the beginning, before I figured out it was going to be Bumblebee, I quickly decided it was going to be Bumblebee. And then it actually turned out that a note that we had gotten from Hasbro before I written the script was, would you mind if Bumblebee is not in the main cast?
Oh, wow.
Really?
That worked out well.
Every once in a while it works out well. So
start rubbing your hands like, here we go.
So, and it, but then I don't know. I made Rumble Frenzy or Frenzy Rumble. I don't remember what it was. I grew up with the show and I got it wrong, I guess. Yeah. And I was just getting lit up, And then I was like, you know what? I'll bring in Frenzy and kill him immediately.
Exactly.
I was completely too. The only reason I did that was because I was frustrated with the online discourse.
Tell us about that.
It's like, I'll just kill him. Just boom, dead, done. Next.
Good for you. It's been 40 years, and that debate still rages on.
Going.
Honestly, it's incredible. But,
Anyway.
It's like, if you're a fan of the Transformers movie, the amount of times that there's 2 Rumbles, there's 2 Frenzies in the shots, it's absolute chaos. They don't even know what was going on in the Transformers movie.
They're the colour they need to be in the moment they're in. That's the thing.
Exactly. That's true.
Changing gears a little bit, there was one specific question I wanted to ask you about one character, which was Sparkplug or Sparky, and his fate, or what we assume is his fate at this point anyway, that we've read up to. And I was really interested in this because this bit did create a lot of discussion, a lot of chat. Yeah. I guess because it's quite open to interpretation as well, how it all comes about. With him essentially stepping into the Matrix to revive it and revive Prime as well. Where did that come from, or where did the inspiration for that come from? Because of everything in there, it's like a really unique point. I think.
Well, so I'll be honest with you. I had big plans for the first 24 issues of Transformers, which is how long I'm scheduled to be on this series.
Okay.
I don't know if that's public info, whatever. I can't keep it straight.
Yeah.
But I had this like really big idea that Hasbro kind of didn't want to do, and I had built the whole arc around it.
Okay.
So I had to change things, and we can talk more about it off air, but It was one of those things where it was a little bit of like me trying to figure out how to keep everybody happy while also making something that was a little bit out of left field.
Yeah.
Because it is like, it's like, whoa, what? Is this allowed? Which is something that I kind of wanted.
Yeah.
And it's something that will ultimately play into future issues, which I cannot talk about.
No, of course.
That's what we were doing. We were like, it was amazing on our Discord that we've got for Triple Takeover. The chat was all around that, and there was it was the one bit that really divided the conversation. Like some people were like, this is amazing and this isn't amazing, but nobody knew what was going on, and which was kind of great. And it's like, we don't really know here, but the fact, again, going back to what I said earlier, that a piece of art, a comic can make people have that conversation was brilliant. I absolutely loved that.
Yeah,
it's so good.
I wish so bad that I could tell you more.
Fair, you can. And then we'll be sworn to secrecy for it.
We'll get them in a minute. But no, I think it was an interesting issue for that reason, was because it was something that had just never been done in Transformers.
Yes.
And I think there is sometimes, ironically, a little bit of resistance to that, from some quarters anyway, where people kind of want to see very specific things from this toy brand that they love. Whereas actually there are a lot of us that are just happy for original stories, for kind of new ideas to kind of creep in. And I don't know, I'm only speaking on behalf of myself here, but I loved it for that reason. It was a curveball, certainly, but it was like, whoa, okay, I'm reading something I've never read before, and in a property that has existed for 4 decades now. That's kind of cool, Yeah.
And it was really important for me to try and shoot for that at least a little bit, because it has such a storied history with so many ideas and so many things that are Bible. I was like, let me just try and, I'm not looking to make anything, like, I'm not necessarily trying to break the wheel. I know what I want to see as a reader.
Yeah.
And I can't help but try and write that into my stories.
Yeah.
Like what you're getting is just like the Transformers comic I wish I had.
Yeah. That comes
great.
Across.
Yeah, it really does.
But that's the way the best comics are written, though, is when it's from the person's heart and the person writing it, rather than it being written to appeal to fans, or to tick the boxes, or to do the things that people expect to see. When it's written from somebody's perspective, that's when you get the new stuff, the uniqueness, the takes like this. Because that conversation we had on the episode we did on those issues, for anyone listening, head over to our Patreon, go check that out. That was one of my favorite conversations we've had, was just talking about what that means, because it's, to all of us, you read it differently, and I think that's what's so interesting. And just it's being able to have those kind of conversations about Transformers, rather than it just relying on the old, like, we already know what this thing does, it does this, and it's still doing that same thing. Instead, it's like, now the Matrix has got something new about it, rather than just being like, surprise, MacGuffin.
Yeah, because for me, I'll be honest, Daniel. For me, I'm like, but it's a crystal, isn't it? How can he walk into it? It's a crystal. He would bounce off it. I was just being very practical at that point.
It gets scratched.
Yeah, exactly.
Ow! Ow!
But it's not often that I'm reading a comic and I actually kind of out loud say something as well. Thankfully, my son wasn't in the room, but I was basically like, "What the?" And it was.
To me, it makes sense though, because it's like the cartoon. Like, he has all the different primes and whatever, and he uses it for wisdom. So if he goes to another planet, it would make sense for him to acquire this kind of, not wisdom, but counsel for it. Like something going in that. To me, I think it's great. I'm really excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, same.
Me too. I have the plans that I have set in motion. I'm really excited about.
That's cool.
Yeah,
there's some pretty big swings coming up.
Nice.
That I think will get people talking, but also I don't know. I'm just really excited to. I won't lie to you. There's it happens during every arc that I write. Like, you write arc 1 of Transformers, and it's like the stages of grief. Acceptance, denial, depression.
Totally.
You're going through this whole creative process of this sucks, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks. This is incredible. This sucks, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks.
I know that
you'd
feeling.
think that you'd get over it, or you'd figure out the ebbs and flows of that creative process. But what ends up happening is you have to write a new arc before the first arc is done, and you're like, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks, this is great, this is great, this sucks again, all over again. And so if I had talked to you a week ago, I'd be like, Arc 2, I don't know, guys. I don't know how I'm going to end it. Oh, I'm freaking out. And now I'm like, I just figured it out. And I'm like,
wow, amazing.
That's great.
It feels real good. So,
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I should be more confident publicly, but no, this is just the way it is.
That's being a creative, isn't it? You know,
it's like, whatever happens, at least you know people are talking about it, right? And they're interested. And
amen.
You know, the reaction to the book has been, I think, overwhelmingly positive. And like, I agree. I know you've obviously picked up on, you know, some of the elements or whatever, but also, you know, probably another difference. And you've probably had this with some of your Marvel and DC work and that, I'm sure. But like, when you've got a pre-established fan base, it's always going to be hard to keep everybody happy. So
it's true, and I want to be respectful too. Like my Transformers people, have your opinions, please.
Yeah,
I mean, burn me down. I can handle it. I'm drawing Optimus Prime to pay my mortgage. Like, I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I just ask, don't tag me. You know, you're going to talk shit, just don't tag me. That's all. Like, if I go looking for the trash, I'm going to find the trash, you know, and I'll celebrate you for it. Because every once in a while, when you're talking your trash, I might get a story idea.
I was going to say, you've already told us how when people annoyed you, you killed off Rumble or Frenzy.
Yeah, exactly.
Remember that guy.
Yeah, exactly. You've been warned now.
Be aware, everyone.
Everyone should hear that.
Totally.
So listen, I'm very conscious of your time, and I know that you're a busy man, so we don't want to keep you too long. We do have, if it's okay, just a couple of quick-fire questions from some of our patrons.
Oh, let's do it.
Because we do have, we obviously, for the people listening or whatever else, we have a Patreon where you can get loads of extra stuff, extra little special episodes, minisodes, all of this kind of stuff. And we dropped a note on our Discord just before we came on saying, okay, here's the deal, because we hadn't wanted to kind of tease your episode too much, but we said to them, here's the deal, we're chatting with Daniel Warren Johnson, what do you want to ask him? And it's fair to say that the response has been pretty rapid, isn't it, guys?
It has, actually. It's brilliant. It's really good.
Awesome.
I'm thinking what we could do, Sixo, what if should we choose one each to do?
I don't know.
Could do, let's pop off. Let's do at least 10.
Can we, okay,
yeah,
cool.
Okay, cool. All right, that sounds good. Nice.
Do you want to choose some, Jason?
I'm going to actually. So from one of our patrons, Yusufer5959.
Nice.
Besides Magic Square, what other figures did you use for reference material for the first 6 issues? If at all, you did use reference material for those issues.
Oh, I totally did.
Can I just say at this point how hilarious it is? And I hope I'm okay to point this out, that you're obviously using a third party, an unofficial toy for reference here.
Don't say anything.
I know. I feel I had to. I was laughing so hard, and I know a few people
just
were
very plausible.
In your YouTube video where you brought it out, and I was like, "Are Hasbro watching this?" Like,
that's literally like a bunch of people. I was looking at the forums. A bunch of people were like, "Hey, is he going to be okay? Like, is Hasbro going to call him out for using Magic Square?" And I was like, "Oh, Hasbro's got bigger problems than telling me what to do when I buy my toys." So, Magic Square is the number one. The Magic Square Optimus Light of Peace, which is my favorite toy of all time.
Wow,
cool.
I have all of the Optimus figures, all the Masterpiece, anything that is like big time G1. I own. I do have pretty specific tastes. If it's too crazy, I will not buy it. Like, I didn't buy the Amazon exclusive Christmas Optimus Prime. Get out of here with that.
Yeah, okay.
But as far as reference
nice
goes,
at Christmas to wheel that guy out.
I can't do it. I'm so sorry. I just cannot do. Also, there's not enough room in my house.
Yeah, that's a problem.
It's the Magic Square Optimus Prime. It's the Masterpiece Starscream.
Okay.
I started by using that as reference, and then I kind of made it my own. Because the Seekers were probably the most hard to draw in the whole series.
I could see that, yeah.
From the chest shape to the head shape. So there was there's the Masterpiece Optimus Prime, the MP44, I think it's called.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Comes with a Starscream head that
Yes, it does. It does.
Body.
Yeah.
So I took that and I would use that as reference.
Okay, nice.
For the Seekers heads, which was really helpful.
It's a really good head sculpt.
Yes, great head sculpt. I did the same with the because on the MP44 I have like the battle damaged head on it.
Okay.
So I took the actual Optimus head and used that as reference.
That's interesting.
So, because like, I have my medic square like right here. Sometimes it's a little bit like it's hard to see the head. Like
yeah, totally.
It's tough to get the right angle. So I would just have the Optimus head lying around, and I would just literally have in my hands about the size of a quarter that I can just rotate everything I want.
See, that's what you needed when you were a kid. You just needed
oh my God,
you needed that toy,
what I would have done as a child.
Fists don't come off, so that's good.
Yeah.
There's also the New Age Soundwave I used a bunch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like the little guy in issue 2 where Soundwave is landing with like the Energon, little baby Energon thing that you hook up to the plant. That's like a straight rip from the New Age figure.
Okay.
Right.
The Soundwave is also a tough one to draw. Woo.
Is he?
He's extra blocky.
Yeah, really
totally.
blocky.
Yeah.
It's just like there's not a lot happening, so you're like, yeah.
It's just like a walking Tetris game, isn't it? Really, it's just Tetris
totally.
on legs.
I noticed Jorge really went up another notch with that as well. Really on the proportions of Soundwave, especially, really kind of took it to another place.
Right.
I'm not just saying this because I think he's amazing. I honestly think Jorge has figured out how to draw Transformers better than me. He makes it look so easy. They look so good. So shout out Jorge Corona. Yeah. You are amazing.
The art on those latest 2 issues is really good. I do like it.
Looking solid.
That's very Generation 2 in a way.
It is. Yeah, that's where it came up in conversation, wasn't it? With that kind of cross-hatching style and stuff as well.
Definitely.
All right, give me the next one.
Okay, so we've got one from P-Funk Pearl, who's one of our longtime patrons. You kind of answered this already. I'm going to read it exactly how he's written it here as well. Try. How far out do you plan for the story? So, yeah.
Well, I'm, let's see, I'm writing issue 14 now. So.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm trying to think. I was kind of like working on 13 before I wrote issue 12, because like we're bouncing around a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then I finished issue 12 just recently, and 14 is being like worked on actively. So I'm wrestling with 14 right now. It's being a real problem.
Interesting.
Yeah. You'll see why when you read it, but sometimes it's easy.
Who's died?
How many? Actually,
wow. Oh, there's a plan.
I do have a great scene like written for 14 that I'm so happy with. It's absolute gold. And the rest of the issue is just terrible. So,
okay.
It's a work in progress, guys.
Right. That's part of the process, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's true.
That's true. Yeah.
Ooh, I've just found a great question here. Liam from Nottingham says,
"Is that you, Liam?"
No, it's this other Liam on our Patreon. Totally different guy. Totally different dude. When you are writing these comics and you're drawing these pictures, how do you pick the wrestling moves that you're going to pick? And is Optimus Prime Bryan Danielson as a robot?
Ooh. Let me just say to any wrestling fans out there, and maybe you never know, Bryan Danielson, are you into Transformers too? Are you out there listening from Washington State?
Yeah.
I am a huge fan of you, bro. I would love to just say hello and shake your hand. Anyway,
he is the greatest wrestler of modern times.
So awesome. So yes, Optimus is Bryan Danielson in robot form. When it comes to...
I knew it.
When it comes to wrestling moves and Transformers, I wasn't going to do it because I didn't want to be dumb. I didn't want people to like laugh at me. But then it was also like, when I'm writing a script, I'm not like, I don't write like Optimus punches Starscream or kicks Starscream, whatever. I'm like, I write like they fight, and by the end of page whatever, one has the upper hand or one is put in like some sort of submission so that they can't reach the gun or whatever. The issue 1 breakdown. Because I'm gonna draw it all, and then I'm thumbnailing it out like on my iPad, like visually, and kind of doing like baby sketches, just trying to figure out what works. And I was like, what, I can get away with a clothesline. Like it's just like basically like a punch. So I drew it, and I was like, oh, this looks awesome. And then I literally, it's just like a blank page because there's like, I have room to have them fight for a little bit.
Yeah.
Just kind of flex the muscles and show, hey, this is an action comic and it's art. I was like, I mean, I could have Optimus doing a suplex, but no, it's too much.
It was wonderful though. It's like, never thought how well they lend themselves to it. Like,
it really does.
Lanky Optimus frame. It's just like, of course that's what they would do.
No, it was actually It's incredibly easy to draw. The thing that was really tough was Starscream holding on to Optimus, keeping him from grabbing the gun in issue 1.
Right.
Like you can't like wrap. They don't can't like
the way the arm wraps around.
choke each other out. You know, really tough.
They're not.
That
fleshy.
was the hard part.
Yeah.
And it was also learning. This is a random art thing, but with so many boxy shapes, there's oftentimes a lot of opportunities for tangents, like shapes just like bumping up with each other, just in like an uncomfortable way. So I got real good at avoiding those by issue 6. But issue 1 was a struggle. So
That's cool.
Oh, wicked!
That's
I was reading one of them, and I thought, when he draws up in Megatron, he's going to do like a Moxley Nick Gage reference, and one of them's going to have a little pizza cutter comes out and drills across the forehead, just like that. Like, aren't we?
I love it. I love it.
You've put that
Let's
idea
do
in
it.
there now, Liam.
Yeah. This is just Liam trying to drop ideas into the next issues. That's what it is.
Get all my wrestling ideas.
Exactly.
Heck yeah.
Can I introduce you to my Okada comic idea?
Totally. Do you another one from our Discord there, Daniel, as well? So, Alex, so you kind of just mentioned this there, but the fact you use an iPad to kind of sketch stuff out as well. But Alex's question is, how much is pens and how much is digital when you're working?
Yeah, the only digital stuff is when I thumbnail the issue. So I write the script, and the script is all done, dialogue's all set, and all the page turns are figured out. The beats of the story are there. And then I visually plan out the whole issue at once. So it takes anywhere from 2 to 4 days to figure out the whole issue, where it's pretty sketchy stuff. Like it's I don't think I have any examples on it, but really
nice.
Oh, that's cool.
Amazing.
If I didn't, obviously your viewers can't see, but very, very loose, like sketches of how the flow of the page is going to go. And so I'm able to draw a bunch of them at once, or maybe 10 a day or 8 a day, depending. Oftentimes fight scenes are much harder than just sitting around and talking pages. But yeah, so the digital element is just the planning period. And then a lot of times for the covers, when I'm having to draw things really big, I'll pencil them digitally on the iPad just so I can zoom out really far.
Yeah.
And I'll print that out on like a piece of... I'll print it out in blue line so it doesn't pick up in Photoshop, and I scan it back in and just ink right over the blue line on the paper.
Cool. That's really nice. So
it's
awesome. Old school technique. I love it. That's great.
Oh, dude, so fun to draw Optimus in pencil and then draw him again in ink. It's like he comes to life.
Yeah,
it's like
totally.
it's like seeing somebody in the mist when you draw something in pencil, and then when you lay it down in ink, if it's confident, it's I don't know. It's kind of spiritual. It's just like...
No, totally. I remember when I started doing Blue Line, and then I would just kind of ink up a character. It was always Blaster for me. I always like drawing Blaster. I don't know why. So another one from our Discord as well. This is from Matt 360verse. What made you decide the current character roster? And he just notes Cliffjumper has been a real highlight for him so far as well.
Oh,
so thanks for that.
Well, I definitely loved Cliffjumper in the show. Optimus, of course, had to be in there. As far as the initial cast goes, I was pretty, I really love all of them. I think all the designs are great. But Optimus had to be in there, and Hasbro really wanted a lady Transformer. So I picked RC, which I wasn't opposed to or anything. I was like, and it was funny because I had to figure out, with the marketing, the way Skybound marketed it, they have the whole team, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's who it is." And I was like,
the roster,
that's the roster." And so how they come to be or how they get revived is a little bit taken. So then I would just in the script, I would just swerve. It's thought you were getting Wheeljack? Just kidding. It's Jazz.
It's Jazz.
That was funny because they did that whole thing at the start, didn't they? Of revealing a character a day almost, and they were all silhouetted out, and it was fun. It was entertaining, but
it was fun.
Yeah,
and that was when the Frenzy and Rumble thing happened, where it was a whole day.
Yeah, totally.
It's not Rumble.
That's brilliant.
With RC, because you, like you were saying earlier about doing the sort of the G1 style alt modes and stuff. With RC, obviously she's got an Earth-based one. Was that quite fun to give her something different?
So, yes, it was actually. In fact, that was another thing that Hasbro definitely wanted her to not be. They wanted her to be some sort of Earth vehicle with wheels. I really wanted her to be an attack helicopter because I needed a flying Autobot to balance the scales. So Hasbro's like, nope, can't do that. I'm like, well, okay, I guess I'll make her a Lambo because why not, right?
Yeah.
And then they were like, oh, also Jetfire, you can't use Jetfire's body. He has to be alive.
All of these things leading this one way.
All led to Jetfire not being able to see, smell.
It's all horrible.
It's cruel fate. It's worse than what it was originally.
I know. I honestly feel bad about it. Next question.
The
next one is from Bonds Rat. How clear is the line between cool and ultra geeky when writing the Transformers comic?
All I know is that I'm over here with my very fancy and expensive headphones and drinking a very fancy latte, jamming out to You Got the Touch while writing like dialogue between good guy and bad guy.
That's
like
the dream,
tappity tap, you know, like, and I'm like, the nerd cred is like insane out, like, you know, oh my god, it's there is no line. I'm fully in the pool.
You're fully there. I love it.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
that's good.
So actually related to that, Andy H has come in with Death's Head when. So are you aware of Death's Head?
I do know Death's Head.
Yeah.
I would say it's gonna be a while, my dude.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah, he'll turn up.
He's a Marvel character now, anyway.
He's
It's
That's a good point. So this is from Dylan. Is there any potential for non-G1 characters or even original characters show up in the story regardless of their significance?
No comments.
Okay.
Ooh.
Oh, that's a good one then.
That means yes.
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
oh, wow. Sixo goes straight in there.
yeah, but subscribe to find out what's coming up. That's the answer there, isn't it?
Yes, there you go.
Spencer, classic. What kind of unspeakable crimes do we have to commit to keep you as a writer?
Well, I mean, I'm going to be on it for a while. I don't know what it equals out to, timeline wise, but I'm having a really good time. I think, you know, the schedule is very intense, and you know, my family needs me, so
yeah.
I can only go for so long.
Yeah.
But
for while I'm here, you have all of me. That's what I'll say.
That's cool.
I hope it's okay to say I don't know how to go less than 110%. So anytime you read a script by me, just know that I have spent many a night lying in bed, looking at the ceiling, wondering if it's good or not.
Yeah, sobbing.
Well, I don't know if it means anything, but they've all been good so far.
They have. Yeah.
Amazing.
Thank you very much.
We've got a couple more if you're up
Let's
for
do
it. Rotastorm Sam, was the idea of giving Optimus Megatron's arm and cannon something that was decided early on?
And the thing that was decided early on before I agreed to do the book was that he was going to lose his arm somehow.
Interesting.
So like one thing Skybound really wanted was for the Autobots to be on their back foot, which I was like, yeah, totally, let's do that, you know. And I love the idea of him losing his arm. And I immediately thought of the Gundam scene from 8th MS Team where the Gundam like pulls his own arm off.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, great. And then they were like, and it was, the outline was like, and then they'll replace his arm with like Ratchet's arm. It's like, well, that's lame. I don't want to do that. So I had a bunch of different ideas, and Hasbro said no to a lot of things. And then
Interesting.
I was getting a little frustrated, but I was kind of stuck. But I had drawn in my sketchbook Optimus with Megatron's arm.
Right.
And I was like, there's no way they'll say yes to this. So I just didn't even ask. And then my editor, Sean, to his credit, he was like, what about Megatron's arm? And I was like, no, there's no way, bro. And he's like, well, let's just see. Let's just put out some feelers. And Hasbro, I was like, yeah, let's do it.
That's amazing.
Thank you, Hasbro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah.
I presume you must be aware of how like memeable that's become now, right? That one panel, especially, of how do you feel
We've
about going
all
on the
taken
offensive?
photos of toys with it now. Like,
Yeah.
You know what I need? I need Magic
breakout
Square
moment.
to come out with a new version.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Light of Peace.
Do you know there's these YOLO Park kits that you can get, which are they're very easy. They just kind of like plug in,
They
basically.
like latch together.
Exactly, but like they've done a Megatron and an Optimus, and a lot of people have swapped the arms around on those and things like this.
That's what I did for the photo I did. And
Yeah, it's cool.
I have the old Dark Optimus, but I don't have the Megatron, so I might have to do that.
Yeah,
I might have
it's
to
pretty
get the
fun.
Megatron.
But like it's inspired a lot of artists out there. I mean, a lot of people on social media have been doing different versions of Optimus. You know, like
That's
Beast Wars
awesome.
Optimus Primal with that Megatron's T-Rex hand and things like this, and it's really kind of taken on a life of its own. That moment, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hasbro, and thank you, Sean, my editor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's superb. And we'll finish up with a suitably random one from Private Random number 0399. Which obscure Transformers character that you would like to slap in the Transformers comic series? So I think he means like in real life. IRL, who are you going to slap?
You mean like, what does slap mean?
Smack him on the face. Give them a... Yeah, what's the wrestling move? Liam?
Does he not mean... Hang on.
Slap.
Does he not mean slap him
like,
in the book?
Like slap him in the book or slap him in the
Oh, does he mean that? Oh, right.
Yes,
that probably makes more sense. But I read it as a wrestling reference.
Like he's Miss Elizabeth.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he says,
Yeah,
would
right.
you like to slap in the I think he means put in the book.
That would make more sense.
Yeah,
Let's go with that version.
Who would you physically like to slap?
One of my favorites. I don't know if he's like off the beaten path, but I love Fortress Maximus.
Oh, wow, cool.
Yeah, wow.
But how big? How big for your Fort? Because there's old Marvel comic Fort Max is
Yeah.
much
Size all
smaller,
the time, yeah.
whereas the cartoon one was very big, massive.
Like,
And then
God
the computer
levels.
game one.
yeah.
It's
God
got to be
level.
massive. Yeah.
Citybot.
Nice.
Citybot.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
Super.
Right on.
Interesting.
Thank you to our patrons for all those questions. Thanks
Yeah,
for
those
asking
were
them.
great questions,
Yeah,
actually.
Good fun.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Daniel, we won't keep you because I know your time is precious, and you as you said, you've got plenty of work to do on the future issues and everything else. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. We can't tell you how much we appreciate it. So,
It was a blast.
It's been amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
been exciting for
Thanks
us.
so much.
Thanks for
Daniel.
having me. Thanks for having good Transformers tweets.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I appreciate that. That's endorsed by Daniel Warren Johnson. That's nice.
Don't
we do
inflate his
try.
ego any more than it already is.
All of us, Liam.
Look at
Obviously.
Sixo's head, it's just growing.
Don't be silly, Liam. Don't be silly. But yeah, thank you so much for that. And thank you everyone for listening as well. If you haven't already, then do check out our Patreon. On there, we do have plenty of additional content. We've got, as I say, little mini-sodes on a range of different topics. We also have ongoing mini-series as well on our top tier. And they're on several topics as well. We're doing one on IDW. We're doing one on Titan's Return. We're doing Liam's legendary Tatman series.
Yes.
And of course, we are doing an ongoing series on Skybound as well. So we've just done a chat on issues 7 and 8, and we'll be back for another one of those before too long. For issues 9 and 10 once those have been released. So that's something to look forward to. So if you are enjoying all the Skybound chat tonight, then that's the place that you want to be. I would say. It's fair to say, isn't it, gents?
Agreed. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. One thing we haven't mentioned tonight, and I should always mention, is that we actually have a sponsor
I was
for the
going to
evening
shout
as
out
well.
to them.
Yeah, we didn't mention that at the start. I'm sure they won't mind. But we do have a sponsor for the evening. That is tfsource.com, so you can check them out for all your Transformers and third-party needs as well. So, and Liam, you're looking at me with a little glint in your eye.
Well, no, I was just going to say, just like usual, we've had a flurry of messages on the old Instagrams there, and we got
Have
one
we?
today about the Redbubble. This surprised me because we don't usually get those, not like every episode or anything. But this one came from Jack from Jacksonville, Florida. He said,
Good
"Summer's
start, Liam.
coming up, guys. I'm going on my holes, and it's like getting a bit warm. If you got any good gear, like for what we could wear," I was like, "Dude, head over to our Redbubble, redbubble.com/people/Triple Takeover /explore." Was that right?
Explore. That
That's
is right.
perfect, Liam.
That is right.
Go there, and you can get some of our designs on your t-shirts, Mr. Jack. Go
Wonderful
buy.
stuff.
We've got sleeveless things, all your summer gear. Go buy.
You sorted for that, are you? Sorted
Yeah.
sorted for sleeveless stuff.
And again, thank you to Mr. Daniel Warren Johnson. And if you would like to tell us your thoughts on this episode or Skybound or just good wholesome vibes, you can find us on all of the social medias. We're at Triple Takeover. There might be an underscore. We're somewhere over there.
Yeah.
Sixo, where can they find you?
Well, I'm.
Oh, hello. I'm all over Instagram.
I am. I'm pretty much anywhere there's an at. That's where you can find me. I'm at
Look, that's my
6OTF.
line.
I know it's
I
your
told you.
line. It's a good line. It's a
I'm
good line.
filing a trademark thing against your claim. Jason, the swags. Forget Sixo. He's gone now. His ego has taken over.
That's it. We can. He just appears immediately anyway as soon as I load my browser. That's the truth.
He's omnipresent on
He's
social
omnipresent,
media.
exactly. Where will you find me? I'll go with jswags.com this time. You know, I love a website. I do, but jswags most likely is where you look at my Instagram. Tons of robots. That's what you want.
And I am Toybot Soapbox. Anyway, there's an at Mr. Daniel Warren Johnson. Where can people find you if they wanted to find you on stuff?
Oh, Google my name, Daniel Warren Johnson, and you'll find me. Sorry, I sounded so haughty. I have a YouTube channel actually that I love sharing. I just draw and hang out. Sometimes I draw covers that haven't been revealed yet for Transformers because I'm on a deadline. But you can find it on my YouTube. Just Google my name.
It'll pop up. It's there.
Yep.
Good stuff.
And the final thing from us that I do just want to mention before we go is check out Short Circuits as well, which is an ongoing YouTube series that we do about Transformers cartoons from the past and present. So if you haven't seen that yet, go and give it a listen. Short Circuits on YouTube. It's pretty good. Pretty good, yeah.
Video.
Yeah,
watch.
you can watch
Use
as
your
well
eyes.
as listen. You
Watch and listen.
eyes and ears.
Yeah.
Visual medium.
Exactly. Thank you for one final time to Daniel for joining us today. It's been
brilliant.
Absolute
Thanks,
pleasure. We really appreciate it. And thank you for listening, everyone. And we'll catch you for the next one.
What the hell is this?